Hello. So for my Homago project, I'm going to be talking about the app Routines, which is an app made for students with autism. My focus throughout all this process was on apps for children with autism. One thing I wanted to just note before I started the presentation was that a lot of these apps happen to actually be a lot of money, which I think is a big issue. Another thing that I noted while looking at all these different apps was that a lot of the apps tended to be made for students like elementary level students, not really as much middle school, which I think is also a big problem because autism is not something that just goes away. It's something that you live with and that you're always trying to cope with and figure out. So I think that that's just another thing that kind of was upsetting while I was looking at these apps was that there wasn't as many geared for middle school. However, this app Routines I think could be beneficial with a variety of age groups. It's a super good app, and one thing that's actually nice about it is that it is free. And so I think that's something that's also great about this app. So I'm going to get into it. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to talk about some of the benefits and some of the constraints. I'm also going to provide videos walking through how to use the app, talk about its implementation process and how I'm going to actually be using it in the classroom, and talk about some of the benefits and some of the constraints. So first, what is Routines? Routines is an app made specifically for students with autism. It can also be used for different disabilities too. It can just be used really if students have behavioral issues, if they have anxiety or anything else that may cause them to have outbursts or meltdowns, or you want to be tracking things like their medication and their mood. So it could definitely be used for students that have other disabilities or just behavioral issues, but the app is specifically made for students with autism. So this app tracks many different things such as meltdowns, medication, sleep, mood, behavior, diet, hydration, and seizures. And it also creates graphs showing patterns and progress in behavior. So, and not only just does it show patterns and progress in behavior, it also just shows, it tracks your mood, it can track sleep. It really just gives you these different types of graphs that you can use to be able to monitor progress or regression. So something that's great about this app is that it can be used very easily between parents, teachers, special ed teachers, doctors, therapists. That's really something that's great about it. In order for this app to really be used to its potential, it is important that the parent is also involved in this process, as things like sleep and medication, you really need the parents to be able to track those things and monitor it. I would say that this app would more likely be used by special education teachers instead of gen ed teachers. However, gen ed teachers can also be able to use it because if the student who is in special ed is also in gen ed classes, it would be very beneficial for the teacher to be able to track these type of things. So it's really great because it tracks all these different things, and as we get into it, I'm going to be showing you exactly how these are tracked. So I'm going to go into my drive to look at some videos about how this is going to be implemented and how it works. So for the first video, this is really just how you're going to set up your account. So as you can see, this is a screen recording. So you just type in, it asks you, you kind of missed it, but it asks, is this for someone else or yourself? I put someone else and did the student just as my name. It then asks you what your relationship is. So I think I'm going to put teacher for this one, but if you're a parent, you put parent. It also asks for the gender and birthday, which is something that you're going to add. So I'm going to go ahead and do a date that would be somebody who is around the age of middle schooler in middle school. So 2008, you're just going to type in a birthday here. So let's just do, May 27th. It's close to my real birthday. And then it's going to ask you what you want to track. So I can do general health and conditions. So it comes up with here with autism. What categories would you like to track? The video ends there, but basically you just would type in all those categories and then your profile is complete. So that's pretty basic setup. And when I am with parents, before you start using this app, it would be important for you to have a meeting or a conversation with parents, most likely a meeting, where you can go over some of these things and show them how to use the app. So I'll get into that when I talk about the implementation. But so that's the first thing. Now we're going to go into the app and figure out some ways that we can track certain things. So we're going to start and look at, let me see which video this is, with meltdown. So as you see, you just press on it and press add. It's going to ask you questions like moderate, severe. So I put severe. It's going to ask you how long the meltdown lasted. So I'm going to put 15 minutes. It's then going to come here to the tags, and this is important. So you can tag things that may have caused the meltdown. So as here, I put medication. You can write notes. So I'm going to put missed last night's medication. So that's something that, like, if you were a parent, you could track, that he had a meltdown, he missed his medication, and that would be something that's important for the teacher because they may know, okay, he misses medication, it might be a rough day. Also, as you can see, I'm going to do another tag, which is sleep. And I'm writing only slept 5 hours because that's another tag that can be important to add so that teachers know, this kid didn't get a good night's sleep last night. We may need to watch out because he may be more prone to behaviors. So you can add those tags, which is super helpful. And then you just press add, which adds the meltdown. And then you have access to the whole entire, everything you wrote. So your notes, when the meltdown occurred, how long it was, and everything like that. So that's a great way that we can track meltdowns that students may have and really just outbursts of behavior. There's a bunch of other things that we can track too. So like for meltdowns, another tag we could have done was, was it aggressive? Was it inappropriate social behavior? I didn't get that on video, but it's the same process. You just go to the tags, you press on that tag, and you're able to add, why the meltdown occurred or what it may be linked to, such as medication or sleep or some effects of the meltdown, like it was inappropriate social behavior or it was aggressive. Now we're going to go into another thing that you can track in this app, which is, let's see what this one is, which is the diet. So as you can see, it just says describe the hunger. So you can put, okay, how nutritious is the food? Great. And then you can add notes about it. So I can write like, he ate fruit and carrots, or I think I put, yeah, he ate apples and carrots without complaint. So you can add things like this to help monitor what their diet is really like. And this is where it's important that parents can use this at home and teachers and special ed teachers can use at school about what they're eating at school, if they're having snacks. And so this is just an important way that you can also track diet because as I've learned researching about autism and other mental illnesses is that diet can play a huge role in managing those symptoms, and it plays even a bigger role than we really think. And so having that is definitely something that's super important because it can track, what are they eating? Are they eating nutritiously? When they do eat out or they're eating fast food all the time, does that have, some type of link to how they're acting or if they're having meltdowns? And that's where it comes in, where it's important, like I said, like I showed you in the meltdowns, where you can add tags. So, you could say, busy week, been eating fast food every night. And that may be something that can lead you into recognize patterns and realize, okay, this fast food is making him agitated or it's causing more meltdowns or it's messing up his sleep. So that's something that's great about this app is just the way that it can link, different causes and everything together. So you can really figure out what's causing these issues. So we're going to look at a couple more here about how to just use the app. So this one is going to be for tracking medication. So as you can see, you just press add medication. So I'm going to do Geden as an example, which can be used for children with autism. So you're going to write down the name and then the amount. So let's say you do 80 milligrams. So you're going to keep that. The frequency, how many times a day do you take it? I'm going to say 2 times per day, and it's going to ask you to put in the times. So this can be helpful too because it can help you keep track of the medication, and if students need to take medication at school, that's something that can be really helpful because it can show, it can give you even reminders. I didn't have my notifications on, but as you'll see later, right down there, it says, remind me 15 minutes before. So if, the special ed teacher is in charge for making sure that medication is taken, then that's something that could be really beneficial. So you can do that, and then I didn't have my notifications on, but you can also add additional information, which I didn't do, but you can, add maybe, does the child like taking the medication? Is it an issue? Do they fight with you? So you can just add a lot of different things to help give a cue into that medication, or, you could add, maybe symptoms if they don't take it, things like that. So you can also do additional notes, which is nice. We're going to look at a couple more videos here. We got 2 left. So this one is going to help us track mood. So as you can see, it gives you a list: angry, sad, anxious, and you can press which one. And there's room for additional information. So you can say, Kathleen's pet goldfish died today, and maybe that can give you a cue into why they're upset. But actually, when I am going to, if I was to implement this into a classroom, I would have the students fill out this part. So this is really where the student comes into play, because a lot of these different, a lot of these things like tracking meltdowns and tracking diet and stuff, the diet could be tracked by the student as well, but mood is really what the student is going to be focusing on, because a lot of the things like the meltdown and the bad behavior and the sleep, that's going to be really tracked by the parents, not so much the student. But the mood, that's where the student's going to play a vital role, and it's going to get them in the habit of evaluating their mood. Sometimes students with autism, especially, children or adults even, can have issues with, filtering out their emotions or understanding emotions or others' emotions. And so bringing this level of self-awareness can really help students to analyze how they're feeling, and they'll have access to the app as well, so they can maybe even link things. You can do tags as well, like they can start to make connections like, hey, when I miss my medication, I'm not in a good mood, I'm anxious or I'm upset. And allowing this room for students to see their own causes of things that may occur, that can be super beneficial for students. We're going to look at one final video. I think this one is, let's see, this one is talking about meltdowns. This is a big one. So as you can see, it says, what type of meltdown is occurring. You can see how long the meltdown is. So let's say 15 minutes. And this allows you to add tags. So you can say, missed nighttime medication. So we can add that as a tag, missed last night's medication, and that can be helpful. I think, did we already do this one? I think we already did this one. Yeah, I think I already went through this one. I don't know why it didn't come up in recents, but we'll just continue. So as you can see, you can say like only slept 5 hours, and yeah, I'm pretty sure we did this one, but this is just another way that you can track meltdowns, which is super important because, especially those tags, that's what's really important, to be able to figure out what's causing these meltdowns or what can these meltdowns be linked with. So sorry, I think we repeated that one, but that's just another way that you can track meltdowns. So that's super important for this app. So as you can see, this app just really helps a lot with being able to track these different things. So I showed you the account setup, how to track meltdowns, tracking medication, tracking mood, and then the tracking, that is where we get into the results. So as you can see, the results here, it gives you like graphs and things that you can look at. So as you can see, I went in and filled in a couple more spaces. I hadn't been using this app for many days because I just did it as an example, but as you can see, it has, it says like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So if I did have more information, it would be tracking it and showing, when did she feel sad? When did she feel anxious? And so as you can see, like I ended up putting it 3 times for Sunday, but let's say that was spread out over Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it would just show up as, one day, Monday, anxious, Tuesday, sad, and it really tracks that information. This piece is great because it allows educators, parents, special ed teachers, administration, whoever, to be able to look at results and track progression or progress. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of this app, is that it gives you this information, so you can have progress reports, so you're really able to understand, how is the child progressing, what are some causes, and that is what I think is one of the biggest upsides about this app, is that it's able to give you so many different, show your progress or your regression. So here's just another example of, I would have the week, it tells all the meltdowns. So as you can see, I haven't been tracking it obviously for a week or for longer than that, because I had an issue with the free trial, so I had to use somebody else's, and then I realized you don't have to pay for it. But anyways, you have, like your meltdowns here, so obviously these are very close together, which wouldn't be realistic, but you can just see it shows you, in the last 7 days, how many meltdowns. It gives you a analysis of like, were most of them moderate, were most of them severe, and then you can click on these things, which will take you to the tags and give you the more information. So you can look at that, you can be tracking, you can see, all these meltdowns were because the medication was missed, or all these meltdowns happen when the child got 5 or less hours of sleep. So this is a really important aspect of it as well, because you're able to really track those meltdowns and, see what is causing them. So as I said, you can press on the arrow and it would show you more information on all of these. And like the same thing with the mood, this is important because it's able to have all this data compiled into one. And something I'm going to talk about with the benefits is that this can be shared with therapists, with doctors, parents. Parents should be playing an active role in the app. So it's a great way to be able to look at these results and, decide what's working for this child, what's not. Here's another picture. So it was same for the diet. As you can see, it just will show you a little breakdown of it. So that's the hunger, and you can go to the quality and it'll show you the hunger was okay. If I press on the quality, I don't have a screenshot of it, but it would have been at the top because I put the quality as very healthy. I didn't put any data for hydration, but I just wanted to fill in a couple of these so you could see how the data is compiled. So also you could go to the month, which I don't have a picture of, but the month, it would kind of give you a graph or show you how that has progressed throughout the month. I probably should have included a picture of that, but I don't want to start this presentation all over. But the month, I looked at that and it really just gives it to you in, the same information, but in a month timeline. So that's also really important. So you can track, if you had weekly meetings, if you had monthly meetings, you can decide and choose the data for, either the week or the month. So you can go through it. So this is really great. I think it's great that it gives you this tracking, that it tracks this progress so that you're able to really see, what is the progression, what is a student, if you can look at diet, or like we have on the last page, meltdowns, you can see how the student's progressing or regressing, and think about what you need to do in order to help that child improve or to maintain good behavior. So now getting into the implementation plan. So the first step would be to meet with parents or guardians of the student. During this time, I would walk the parent or guardian through the app, describing how the app works. I will go in depth with this, offer guidance and examples, so they don't have any doubts about how to use the app. I'll then let parents know parts of the app you'd like them to monitor and fill out, such as diet, sleep, medication, etc. You can encourage them to track meltdowns at home as well. So this would be the first step of implementing this app into the student and parents' life. You would have this first discussion just with the parents. The student could be there if you wanted them to, and you would talk about really how the app works. And you could sit there with them, you could start them off, so you could go through things like medication. You could sit there with the parent and they could tell you, these are the medications. You could show them how to work it. What I would do is pretty much like what I did in the videos. I would really just walk them through the app and show them how to use things, how to add, how to track, how to, put tags onto the meltdowns, how to, fill out the diet and everything. So I would make sure that I would just offer them, examples. I would show them how to use this app so that they really know how to use it, because this app is going to be the most beneficial if parents are also involved, just like educators. The second app would be to meet with the students and inform them of the app if cognitively appropriate, because autism is a spectrum. So if it's very severe, they might not be able to really comprehend it very well. And so you may not need to go into as much depth, but if they are more cognitively advanced, then it would be good to go through the app and inform them about it. So introduce to them the mood section and explain how they would be filling it out daily. So like I said earlier, the mood section is really important with this app because that's what the student's going to be filling out on a daily basis. So you could also, depending on the cognitive level of the student, you could have them fill out other things such as, their diet or their hydration. These might be important to have them fill out as well. But the really big one is the mood, because I want students to be able to think about how they're feeling, why they're feeling those ways, and really be able to track their mood and figure out, how am I feeling? So that would be something that you would do daily with the student. And it would be nice because then when you're meeting, at the end of the week or the end of the month, you're able to show them, look, your mood was anxious and then sad and then happy, and you can show them these patterns and you can show them the link. So you can say, you were feeling anxious today. Let's look, you also had a meltdown. And we tag medication, you missed your medication. And this can allow students to see, the importance of things like taking their medication, like sleeping, like eating well. So it's really important because these students can make those connections, and they'll also be taking an active role by filling out that mood section every single day. The third thing you would do is implement the app by having students fill out daily mood reflections, what I just talked about, and then tracking meltdowns along with tagging things that may have caused it. Make sure to include notes with meltdown or misbehavior. So this is the part where, the gen ed teacher, the special ed teacher really has to make sure that they're diligent and that they're using this app frequently, because the data that we get at the end of the week, at the end of the month, it's not going to be accurate if teachers are only filling it out once a week or only 2 days a week. In order for this app to work, student or teachers, whether it's the gen ed teacher or the special ed teacher, need to make sure that they're filling this out. And that's something that could kind of be a downside, because it is a lot of, it takes extra time to be able to fill this out. And if you're not doing it consistently, your data is not going to be very accurate. But that's basically the biggest part. This third step is really just implementing it and having these students do the daily mood reflections. If cognitively appropriate, you can have them do their diet, you can have them track their sleep, and then it comes down to tracking meltdowns and tracking all these other things. So tracking meltdowns would be the biggest thing for educators, but other things like maybe diet and sleep, that might need to be more done by the student or by the parents. So that's another thing about the app. Like I've said before, it's going to be most beneficial if parents are also involved in this process. So the fourth thing is to have monthly or weekly meetings with parents, the special ed teacher, and the gen ed teachers, if applicable. Look at the graphs and chart that the app gives you and talk about students' progress or regression. So this is, like I said, one of the biggest upsides of the app is that it does offer you these graphs and these compiles this data. And so that's going to be very beneficial, because you're able to have these meetings and talk to students and teachers together and figure out, what are causing some of these meltdowns. Does the student, act better when they sleep better, when they eat better, when they are hydrated? And so this app is just super beneficial for that, because it gives you all this information compiled, and you're able to have these monthly meetings with all the teachers, with the parents, with the student, and you're really able to track and understand, all the trends in their behavior. So now the final thing I'm going to talk about is just the benefits and constraints. So I've kind of talked about a lot of these throughout the presentation, but just as a recap, so some of the benefits are that both parents and teachers are involved. So this is super important, because parents, especially parents who might have a child who has autism, who has a disability, they're going to want to be informed and involved, and this app allows for many parties to play a role, and many parties to be included in tracking their learning and their behavior and their behavior in the classroom. So that's something that I think is definitely a benefit of the app. It also provides data in easy to read format. So that's another thing, like I showed you in the pictures, you can see I gave you screenshots of the weekly data and how that was compiled. And I was not able to do it. I wish I could have done it for a week and tracked it, but I originally thought my free trial ended when I originally did it for the Homago, so I didn't know. I thought it was the app, you had to pay for it, so I didn't realize until later, or I would have been tracking data throughout the week. But I showed you how the graph is laid out, so you can see, how the child is progressing. Another big benefit is that it allows tags to add notes and triggers. So this is really important, because like I said, we can start to see, what's causing these meltdowns, or what's causing them to act out or have, aggression. And these are things that are just super important, because it allows you to be able to make those connections. It also offers the tracking of many different categories. So like I said at the beginning, it tracks sleep, mood, diet, medication. It has all these different categories that it can track. And being able, like I said before, to make those connections is also super important. Another benefit is that data can be shared with therapists and doctors. So there's actually a way that you can print out the data and make it, in a PDF form. And what's so great about this is that it can be shared with therapists and doctors as well. So this information could be extremely helpful for therapists and doctors, because, when you meet with your doctor, your therapist once a month or once every 2 months, it's hard to remember, what was every single day like, what was every week like. And so having these actual graphs that you can present to your doctor or your therapist and actually show them, on Monday, this was her mood. On Tuesday, this is how much she ate. And that's so super great, because it's going to give that doctor more insight into your child's day-to-day life. So some of the constraints is that it is not as productive if the parent is not involved. So obviously with our students, we hope that they have parents who are involved and care about their learning. That's at least my hope for all of my students. However, that's not always the case. And so if the parent is not involved, it's going to get a little harder to track some certain things like diet. I mean, they may eat, one meal at school, but there's 2 meals a day that they're eating at home. So that might be harder to track. With the medication, I'm not sure if I think schools do get a list of medications, but that's something also that the parent would be more involved in. With the sleep as well, if the student is not cognitively able to track their own sleep, that's something that you need to rely on the parents. So that's definitely one downside of the app, is that, you do parent involvement is a crucial aspect of this app. And so if you're missing that because you have students whose parents are not involved, or they don't, pay attention to these things, then it's definitely going to make the app less useful and less productive. Another restraint is that it requires consistent tracking. So teachers are always busy, especially, special ed teachers have so many kids, gen ed teachers have so many kids. And so, if you're forgetting to track these things, if you're only tracking meltdowns once a week, or you're only tracking sleep, one day a week, then that's going to lead to inaccurate data, and it's not going to be as productive as if you're, tracking this stuff all day. So that's something that could definitely be a constraint. And finally, it does not offer solutions to bad behavior and meltdowns. So a lot of the other apps I looked at during this semester, they had, games or things like that to help calm kids down, to help, control meltdowns or get students back on track. And this app doesn't offer things like that, which I think would be important to add in the app. So if it was able to also have a section, of like coping skills or videos or games to help kids calm down, or meditation to get back on track, I think that would also just make the app even more beneficial. But this app is mostly just used for, for acquiring data and for tracking behavior, meltdowns, and everything. So that's basically it for the presentation. Like I basically said throughout the whole video, I think that this app is really great, and it could be super beneficial for